that file, what kind of versions, if I hash that file, will it tell me about? The other side is the versions table, which is the exact same data grouped slightly differently, that if we want to confirm or rule out versions. We've done some fingerprinting, we've got it down to, we think it's version 3.1 or it's version 3.2. Hey, versions table, what's a file that can help break this tie? What's a file that will give me deeper information once I've got a small set of versions? So here it is, a little bit of an eye chart here, don't need to worry about it too much. Basically, WordPress, every version, star, all the files. We're going to chew through those and compute hashes on those and send those to the paths table and the versions table. Here's what it looks like. Paths table is keyed by file, and the values are hashed to version mappings, and the versions table is versions and their file to hash mappings. Currently we're doing MD5. We want to do some sort of deeper, cooler stuff with this, but we've gotten good results with straight up cryptographic hashing so far, so the rest of this stuff is future work. Hopefully we'll get to that. Everyone good so far? Chewing up massive amounts of source input files and producing these two hashes tables, or these two data tables. How many files are we talking about? Got currently 166 versions of WordPress, 32 versions of PHP-BB. We're supporting a lot of different versions of these files, of each of these web applications, and many files within there. Got support for a couple of plugins. I'm just doing 2 right now to show that the technology worked. We'll add more later. But you can sort of see that explosion of different artifacts to deal with when we get down to plugins. 1,200 versions of WordPress plugins that we can uniquely identify. So fingerprinting. What we don't want to do is look at all these possible files that could exist on a remote system and fetch them all. That would take forever and hundreds of megabytes and is unreasonable to do. What we want to do is surface a couple of files, 10 or 15 files, that give us lots and lots of information about what's there. So we want to pick files that are present in many versions, because we request it, and if we get a 404, that hasn't helped us. It's helped us a little bit. We know files that, we know it can't be any of the apps that actually contain that. But we want to find files that exist in many versions and also have changed from version to version to version. So you can sort of think logically, things like changelog or what else do we have in here? Changelog, install or update, or any of those sort of user documentation that discuss new functionality. Those will definitely change, and that's no trick to find those. Finding ones that are really obscure is the trick, and that's one of the nice things about having this, again, fully data-driven, no human judgment process going on. So here's some of the candidate files, like for example, for movable type, mt.js, client.js. These are all, again, these static files. We're not looking at any PHP files. We're not looking at any JSP files. Those kinds of interactive files, we don't care about those. Those are all blacklisted out when we start chewing through the source code to produce the data tables. So here are the 15 that if you go to find a movable type machine or a movable type app, these are the one that it'll get. MediaWiki, obviously documentation, changelog, the heuristics to pick files automatically surface those, and then some slightly less obvious ones, lang, synclang. I don't know that I would have gone looking for that one early on as a very useful file to fetch, but it popped up there. Some of that stuff. So again, just hammering on that all the data is in the code, none of the data is in the operator or the person compiling the tables. So fingerprinting. We've got these cool data tables, and we know what files we want to request from the remote machine, so we go ahead and request them. As each of those goes out, some of them will get 403s or 404s based on little individual strange configurations or stuff that people have done. That's okay, we're fetching a bunch of files. We only care that we get data back on a decent number of them. So here, it didn't come out as large as I was hoping, but got versions, the one file gave us version 201, 202, maybe 304 RC. Something else said 251. We've got these sets of possibilities. Remember the elephant? We intersect them. And what we have with that small area is we have files which there is definite concrete evidence for the existence of that version, but no evidence against it. Okay. So if, for example, if we'd done that and got in this inner circle here, or this sort of inner area was too large, whoops, how's that? This inner area was too large. If it's not useful enough for our purposes, whatever our purposes are, we can turn around and winnow. Remember the versions table that will allow us to confirm or refute the existence of a particular version? So we're going to go ahead and pick some slightly different files based on what's in the version table. You look up the version that you want to confirm or refute, get out a whole list of files that will give you information on that version, and fetch it, and send a smaller set of requests, and ultimately we're able to narrow it down a bit. Winnowing is turned off by default, but if you turn it on, it tends to reduce your version set by about half, which is pretty nice since the results are reasonably small to begin with. So if you need more accurate data and you're willing to make a few more requests, winnowing is a way to do that, all using the same data that we collected up front. This data also allows us to do application guessing. Using the versions table, we say, hey, surface for me files that exist in every single version that's out there. If not every single version, then 99% of versions, and we'll pick up that other one with an additional file. So we get a very small set of files that darn well should exist in, say, every version of Moodle. I think that's Moodle up there. Is it? Whatever. And so things like the application logo. It's been there since the beginning of time. It hasn't changed. They like it, and it's staying right there in /images logo. All right. So if we're doing app discovery, send those files at it. One of them should come back with a recognized hash, and Bing, it's some version of Joomla. We can turn around and then go ahead and do full-on fingerprinting against, now that we know it's Joomla, we can use the Joomla tables to fingerprint. Okay, supporting a new application is pretty simple. As I said, gather every version you can, dump them in a directory, chew through them, get out 2 tables on the end, and then turn around and say, whatever my new app is, fingerprint using those tables. All right, so this tool is only interesting if it works. Turns out it works pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and fingerprint my boss's website here. We know it's happen to know it's a movable type, so I'm going to plug that in, load up those movable type data files, and start fetching each of these indicator files that we care about. So you see mt.js implies this set of versions, client.js implies this set of versions, and those are pretty large sets of versions, larger than I would like to see. But again, the only thing we care about, as we're going through large sets of versions, is this inner area. As long as that's small, any of the individual files can post back many, many versions, but we can narrow it down. So if we finish this fingerprint, we get out to fingerprinting resulted in any of the 4.2s or the 4.3, either the regular version or the commercial version. Turns out this is 4.23 commercial, so we're doing all right. This has a vulnerability in it, by the way. Sorry. It does plugins too. Again, same logic, same approach going for this. We can say, hey, go to some example site and please guess, and we know it's Drupal, please guess what plugins it has. Chug along for a few seconds and come back and say, here are all the supported plugins. They could also be running other plugins, but they just aren't ones that we support. But this is what we're able to discover. And then turn around and say, we care about what version the IMCE plugin is. OK, cool. We'll fingerprint that and came out with its Drupal 6.x version 1.3 of the plugin. So there you go. Tool kind of does its job. Anybody run any of these well-known web apps? Any of Joomla or Drupal or WordPress, PHPBB, that kind of stuff? You want to be a guinea pig in the white?
Sure.
Okie dokie. Oh, it's Windows. We can't do that. All right. What do you got? Somebody? Gotcha. artrenewal.org. And should I guess what you're running, or do you want to tell me?
Yes.
It's not even a question, all right. Okay, so what this is doing is going through all of those data files that I told you about for every supported web application and finding out what files are likely to give us good information on what he's running there. So it's going to try and send maybe 2 to 3, 2 to 4 requests for each supported app to see if maybe it's running there. So I told you I would hopefully not send you for a cup of coffee on the actual fingerprinting. Guessing does take a little bit longer, so I've made a liar out of myself. Unlikely, actually. I had to explain that to our legal counsel a while ago when we got a cease and desist. But no, this is actually behaving very, very much like a web browser in terms of the kind of traffic that it's sending, the volume, the speed, the types of requests. All the requests are very well formed. So, yeah, this is just URL-lib, HTTP-lib. I was banging my head against some of the stuff that Python allows there. Ooh. The demo gods do not smile on me. You want to tell me what version it is? Or do you want to tell me what app it is? Is that where your blog is? Or is it like /blog? That could make a difference. Let's try it out that way. And let me load this up just to make sure I'm actually hitting something live. artrenewal.org. I would have expected an error if it was, if we couldn't get there at all. Okay, here, so very cool looking blog here. A little free advertisement there, a little nudity.
I like movies.
All right. Man, I hope this works. No, that's not. Yay. All right, I will figure out. And are you hosting this yourself? All right. I'm making a fool out of myself. All right, to recover a little bit of face here, I'll go ahead and do a live fingerprint of that one I showed you just a moment. What's that? Shouldn't? Well, if is there a redirect there? Hang on. I don't want to burn too much time on this. I should have known better than to tempt the demo gods. That's all right.